Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live event. I am Megan McDonough, and I apologize for being a few minutes late. As life sometimes happens, had a little technical glitch in the background, so happy to be here now. And just as we always do when we start something, I suggest taking some deep breaths in. So how about we do that together? Taking a nice deep breath in, and a big exhale. And with that exhale, just remind yourself that you are here now. Whatever came before is not here now. Just really settling to this moment, taking another deep breath in. Big exhale. And with that second breath, just noticing what is present now. Perhaps what emotions are there, any sense of energy. And one more deep breath in. And with an exhale, what are you looking forward to? I love that question. And I really hope, since we are a few minutes late, that you're still here with me. If so, type into the chat box something that you're looking forward to tonight. What made you say yes to being here now? What do you want to get out of tonight's time together? And for those of you watching the replay, I would say the same thing. What is it that you're looking forward to hearing? I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to being here tonight with my friend Jennifer Hanawald. Before I introduce her, I want to just, before I bring her up on screen, I actually want to tell you just a little bit about her, because I have had the delightful good fortune of working with Jennifer for, oh my goodness, a number of years. I don't even know how long, Jennifer, maybe 4 years, possibly even longer than that. Maybe, she's giving me a thumb, like, hi, like maybe 5 years, 6 years. I've had the good fortune of first being with Jennifer when she was a student in the Certificate in Positive Psychology program. So impressed with her that we said, oh, please come back and help us with the next group, in which she was part of the faculty and teaching assistant, helping out the group really reach for their highest and best. And because Jennifer is always moving forward, she then continued on and worked in positive psychology coaching, and did a lot with Wholebeing Institute, helping out as part of the core faculty now for the positive psychology coaching program. And she works alongside Linda Wallace, who is the lead faculty in that program, and also works alongside our beloved Phoebe Atkinson, who has also been with the Wholebeing Institute for a number of years now. So we're very, very lucky to have her skills in our faculty, and the students are very lucky to work with her. And I want to also let you know that not only has she been doing this great work with Wholebeing Institute, which I'm very grateful for, she also has this deep wisdom when it comes to health coaching. She describes herself as a health coach, and she actually holds a national board certification as a health and wellness coach. She has gone through Duke University's program for certification as an integrative health coach. That's a mouthful, but that's a lot. And as I said, she has her certificate in positive psychology with Wholebeing Institute as well. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Jennifer. Hello, my friend.
Hello. It's really good to be here, and I'm glad we got the technology going and we made it.
Oh, let me just see if anyone's on now. If you do have comments, go ahead and type it in to the chat box so that we can go ahead and I can see what people are saying. Yeah, as many times as I do this, Jennifer, here's the truth. You think, oh, we practiced, we prepared, as in life, we know what we're doing, we have this checklist, and then the time comes and oops, the link is not working.
It was a great exercise in self problem solving or solution building, and then some self-compassion too, I thought.
Oh, that is beautiful. So no matter what you're doing in life, you know that you always have to have these problems solving capacities and the self-compassion. So really the reason I asked Jennifer to be part of our Facebook Live tonight is because this is the last week before the Positive Psychology Coaching Fundamentals program is opening. And Paula, who is the support desk manager, said, Megan, there's a lot of questions. And this always happens the week before we start a class. It's like all of a sudden people realize, oh my gosh, the class starts next week and I have all these questions. Let me answer them. I said to Paula, let's just do a Facebook Live. I'll ask the questions to Jennifer. If you have anything in particular that you have questions about, you can go ahead and type it in and we'll answer it as you type it in. Jennifer and I did plan on, hi, Nadia. It's good to see you. So we do have some things planned out for tonight. And again, if you have questions as we go through this process, you go ahead and say hello to us and let us know what your questions are. So the first question I have in my mind, which people give us a lot, is just give us a broad stroke overview of the program, Jennifer. That'd be helpful.
Sure. That seems like a great and logical place to start. In Positive Psychology Coaching Fundamentals, what we do is we explore concepts and tools that we can apply in our coaching relationships. And we go broad. We look at a lot of different concepts and research, and we go deep in that we're really applying those straight away, literally from the end of the first class. So, and of course, we teach all of this through the lens of the change model, which is just a really great model to help us organize how to use all of these tools in a real live coaching engagement. So that's my quick synopsis, if that gets us started.
And I'm curious, as I hear that quick synopsis, how many of you on the call are already call yourself a coach or are doing coaching? And how many of you either are a novice or actually don't use the word coach to describe yourself? And the other question is, Jennifer gave the overview. I'm also curious about how many of you have heard of positive psychology, and how many of you is that term new? So I'm trying to get a sense of who's in the audience tonight and what type of support they need. So
absolutely,
as people are typing in, maybe you have some thoughts on positive psychology as a field, and then who in particular is it for?
Right. Well, gosh, that would be a ton to go deep, but just on a high level, right? Positive psychology is the study of human flourishing, of the behaviors and attitudes and mindsets that people have when they're doing really well. So what we do in positive psychology coaching is we look at the research provided by all of these incredible people who are doing the science, figuring out what the mechanisms are for people who are doing really well. And so we look at that research and we use tools that are literally taken directly from the science, and we mix that up with coaching. So we use those, we apply those positive psychology coaching concepts in our coaching engagements. So I think I covered some of that. But so what we do in this course is we spend a little time on many different tools, many different concepts, many different areas of research. And then we turn around and give our students the opportunity to practice this through peer coaching, which is a super fun and important part of the course if you're able to do it. And then we do live demonstrations during the course, which is where Linda, this is an incredible opportunity as a student. You get to step up and say, yeah, I'll be your client today. And Linda will then coach you using one of the tools that she's teaching. And then at the end of each class, there's an assignment. And you can, again, like I said, if you choose to opt into the peer coaching, you will have a partner that I will hook you up with. And you and that partner will spend about an hour a week practicing on each other. And the beauty of that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of nonstop talking about the beauty of that, is that you get both sides of the coaching. So you're learning to do it. You're using and applying these tools straight away, and you're having it done to you. So you're really understanding the benefit of these tools. So I'll take a breather and see if that sort of got us where we needed to go for now.
Yeah, and I'm noticing my my chat is kind of hung up. So those of you who are typing in, I'm sorry I can't see you, but we're gonna go forward. And what I'll do afterwards when I get back on Facebook is I'll see if I missed anything and answer the questions. But it's funny, Jennifer, as I was listening to you talk, and this isn't something we actually chatted about beforehand, but one of the things that came to mind is what's different about positive psychology coaching. Like when you have a potential client or a new client coming to you, what would a positive psychology coach do differently than, say, a career coach or
right
standard coaching practice?
Well, it's a great question, because we do have people come into the course who are executive coaches or who have other backgrounds, and they find that it's really beneficial too. So we're using, the same coach approach where we're partnering with clients to help them identify their goals and achieve them, but we're doing it all through what you would call a positive psychology lens. So it's very strengths-based. So that first class where we are, and remember that we also have beginners to coaching in this class, which is one of a very interesting and exciting thing about it, right? So we have experienced coaches and we have beginners. So that first class, we're touching on some coaching competencies to make sure everyone knows where we're headed. And then very quickly, by the end of the second class, we're applying character strengths and so as we teach empathic listening or active listening and mirroring, we're using this language of strengths immediately from the get-go. So that's where, if that answers your question, it differs. And so that's always the lens that we're looking for. What's working for our clients? What can we build on and leverage to help them achieve this change that they've identified? We're also really looking at values and things that are really important to the client. So I think I'll take a breather.
Yeah, what I noticed, and I did this on the video when I was talking about the course opening, is that I noticed every time I'm not a coach, full disclosure, but I notice that when I have conversations with you or Linda or Phoebe, people who are trained in positive psychology coaching, there's an aspect of hope that's elevated in me through the questions that they ask. And that is also slightly different type of questions that you would get from a standard coach, as is sort of that self-compassion lens. So between hope and self-compassion, it feels markedly different for me to have a conversation with either one of the three of you versus.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. And there are very specific tools, like I mentioned before, that we use. And I love that you brought forward self-compassion, which I think, yes, is very unique to positive psychology as well. And that's where we really work with our clients to develop and cultivate a kindness towards themselves as they move forward, trying to make sometimes, which is what is a very challenging change. And there's wonderful research from Kristen Neff that we dive into. It's one of my favorite classes that Linda teaches. And I've done some work also with Kristen, a workshop. And, she likened it to, it's a mindset, right? If you are trying to do something difficult, she likened it to a soldier on the battlefield who is really under pressure. Who do you want on your shoulder? Do you want the guy that's like, don't screw this up. If you screw this up, you're going to be dead meat. Or do you want the person that's like, you've got this, take a breath, look what you already did. You've done this before. That's one example of one of the pieces of research that we look at that has been transformative for my clients as I use it. And I feel like another piece about this class that's really important to think about, and it's a tremendous benefit to do this course, whether or not you end up being a coach, whether you just fold it into your parenting, or whether we have people from HR departments, we have educators, we have all these different kinds of people who are able to apply these tools that we work with.
Yeah, one of the other things when I hear you talk about, the compassion on one end and the hope on the other, there's also something that has to do with the way in which the Wholebeing Institute positive psychology coaches help people clarify what their goals are by really telling stories from their past at their best.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I was. We work with best self stories from the get go, right? Remember a time when you were at your best, and this is also the appreciative inquiry approach that we look at as well, where we look back when things were working, and we draw from these stories of ourselves at our best to help us have not just clarity but hope and gain momentum towards the change that we want to achieve as well. Yeah, and another piece of clarity is, early on in positive psychology coaching, we're really asking people about their values, what's important to you, and reflecting, mirroring that back to them, so that the objective that our clients go for is really aligned with their best self, with who they really are. So if somebody comes in and says, I want to make $1 million, or, I want to get a Ferrari, there's going to be some deep conversations. What makes that important to you? How does that connect to your values, who you are, your best self? So, yes.
Yeah. So yes, and that. Nadia made a note that she's familiar with positive psychology, but has never heard of positive psychology coaching. So hope that put it in context for you, Nadia, and also that she's intrigued and excited about the idea of that, which I think it's a lovely combination of the two. And Wholebeing Institute, someone on the team wrote, parenting, I 100% agree. Yes, we need these skills as parents. And actually, I think about it in leadership too. If you're coaching others in a team, you don't call yourself a coach, but that's part of the work that we do in businesses too. These, I think Linda calls them coaching conversations, positive psychology coaching conversations. On the one end, whether you're a novice or have been doing this for 10 years, the skills of positive psychology coaching is unique. And also, if you are an in-depth practitioner, want to dive deeper into positive psychology coaching, not only do we have the positive psychology coaching fundamentals course, which starts next week, and if someone from the Wholebeing team wants to pop that link in, that would be very helpful. We also, that's part of a bigger positive psychology coaching certification program. You want to say a few words about that too, Jennifer? That might be helpful for folks as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So fundamentals is the first step. That's where you get this really broad, like I said, introduction, and then you dive actually fairly deep as well into a lot of pieces of positive psychology coaching. And then you can move from there in a certification. You can progress and just go deeper and develop your skills more. And so the second, there's actually five required elements to the certification, but there's only 3 pieces that are really linear. You start with the fundamentals, then you can take skill building intensive, which is more practice and a deeper dive into the change model. We really focus in on the change model. And by the end of that, you're going to be able to turn around and use it and tell people about it and be really comfortable and confident with it. And then the third piece of the certification that's in this linear path is this thing called the mentorship, where we're a circle of people. It's a smaller group, usually around 10 people, where you're actually demonstrating yourself the coaching skills in front of the instructors, the faculty, who right now are Phoebe and me, and we give you feedback. And people say, for me, creating this, working with Linda and Phoebe to create this was inspiring, powerful, because you go from the learning to the doing. This is where I've been called as a coach supportive and pushy, Megan. And, I feel like
those two things live together.
As a compliment. And so the mentorship really is a supportive and pushy environment. People say every time how incredibly safe they feel, but they literally get out there on a Zoom call in front of their 9 or 10 cohorts, and they coach someone for 20 minutes. And then we say, wow, this went well. We go through a whole debriefing process. So we do that every week, and then we keep adding extra layers of what we've already taught and some new pieces as well.
Yeah, and that sounds very rich. And for those of you just joining the call, that's like the last step. You have to go through all these other ones before you get into mentorship. So we don't start there, obviously.
No, no. You do not have to demonstrate anything in the fundamentals. And of course, it's an option to just do the fundamentals, right? If that's all you want and that's all you need, that's great. Like if you're already a very if you know that you're just going to use that. And the other thing is there's two other pieces of that certification right now, which are the building a thriving coaching practice, which is what's it called, Megan?
Self-directed.
Self-directed. So you do it at your own time frame. And it really helps you build a business. It's looking at the nuts and bolts of what that might look like. And then there's the introduction to Wholebeing Happiness, which is another wonderful self-paced somewhat, right? How long do you have to complete that?
It's a 5-week course. So and what we mean by self-directed is that on these other ones, we actually have live webinars. So we should probably talk about the flow of the coaching course, but let's table that for a minute so people understand the difference between self-directed. So for the building a coaching practice, how to do a website, how to advertise, how to get your clients, how to do the initial consult, how to make that into a building. I mean, that is something you sign up for, and then you take it by watching the videos and doing the homework and doing the reading. There isn't a live interaction piece. The same with the introduction to Wholebeing Happiness, that is based on what does it mean to really thrive as a human, and that's based on the Aspire model. So both of those are self-directed, self-led, what's called asynchronous, which means it's not with live interaction. So with that said, and it was Paula from Wholebeing Institute who's been helping me out and typing things in. Yes. I love you, Paula. Thank you for your help. Yeah, she's typing in some stuff for people who want that. This is actually the very long URL, but you can go ahead and click that and find out how to get to the course. And Paula, if we're not answering any of the questions, because you see all the questions, so if there's other ones that you see that we haven't answered, my friend, type them in, we'll ask away. But talk a little bit about the flow. How do people actually go through the 10 weeks? What does it look like?
Okay. So what happens is on a Friday, you get an email that says class for next week is open. And at your own pace, you log in and you find out what's the pre-work. So there might be a little bit of reading. There is usually a little bit of reading. There might be some reflection on what happened last week. And then, of course, there's the live call the following week on the Thursday. And you don't have to go to the live call. It's recorded and you can go back to it. And then another piece of the week or the flow is also up to you to schedule. If you opt into peer coaching, which I think is a really valuable part of the course, and I strongly recommend it. And there's a few people that just can't fit it in their schedule. That's totally fine too. But then you'll be doing another hour with your peer coaching. So it's actually not a really heavy load spread out over the week. It's probably about 4 hours.
And what I really like the way that it's segmented in the virtual classroom, it's like, okay, Friday you get it. If you want to work over the weekend to get a head start, you can. If you want to wait till Monday, you can do that. Yes. It's really only the apps and the live webinars are when, because those are the things that if you want to participate live, that's when that is. And that's even recorded too. So you could listen to that at a different time.
That's right.
When is do you remember the days of the webinars, what days they are?
Thursday nights. The first one's February 6th from 7 to 8:30. And of course, not everyone can make every webinar. It's really fun to be live. There's usually some great music playing, which of course just sets the vibe. And then there's some informal chatting. We might be talking about concepts before class starts for 10 minutes or just saying hi, hello. It's a really warm environment. And then also throughout the call, whether or not you're on it, you'll see this, we open the chat room from time to time. And so if you have questions, you can say, oh, the self-compassion thing, I don't understand how this piece of it works, or I can't do it. I mean, there's a lot of humor in these classes too. On the one hand, it's science-based research, but on the other hand, it's warm and it's friendly and it's fun. And that's really, Linda's got such warmth, and it's a very smart, intelligent class, but it's so approachable. It's so digestible. So I'm again going on and on.
I love that balance though between deep rigor and approachable work. And that's what it is. It's deep rigor on the science and the evidence-based work, and deeply approachable. Here I am. I'm happy to help. So
Right.
I've got a couple of questions I want to hit. Eduardo from Costa Rica. Hi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. He asks, I need some program that I can apply in companies. Can this course help? So we talked a little bit about it in terms of how do you have coaching conversations in a business setting. Can you give Eduardo specifically in this course, what tools or techniques would he get that would be able to be used in?
Yes, definitely. I mean, honestly, Eduardo, I feel like every tool is applicable to a business setting. And just to give you an idea, in the mentorship class that we have right now, where there's 10 people who have traveled this whole journey, we have at least 3 or 4 that are applying it in a business setting, or in a consultancy, or as executive coaches. To be, let me think about just sort of specific examples, I mean, there's so much, but one woman said that people that she is leading have come to her and said, "Oh my gosh, it feels so different working with you now." She says, "I feel like I'm finally being a leader." They said, "Our conversations are motivating me." And she actually explained to them what she was doing, this strengths-based focus, and it sort of changed the dynamic with her and the people that she was leading. So I know that I could talk more offline, but right now, like, beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah, let me add to that, because I think one of the things that that I have loved about the coaching model, and as I said, I'm not a coach, but I actually do use these positive psychology tools in what I would call coaching conversations. And so Eduardo in the business world are things like when people come to you with problems to solve or difficulties that they're having, the questions that we're asking them are things like, give me an example of a time in the past where you've overcome a difficulty. Because what you're listening for as a leader in the business is, what are the strengths that they're saying they have, indirectly. So they're not saying, "Oh, I have the strength of leadership," or "I have the strength of any number of things." But when you start listening with that sort of perspective, you hear different things. What was invisible before becomes visible, and because of that, the person that you're trying to help actually sees themselves differently. And ultimately, isn't that what we want? And so many times I think in business, we really stress outcomes, getting things done. And I'm guilty of this as well. Paula will tell you, let's get this done. And you're moving at such a fast pace that you miss sort of what's needed from a human to human connection standpoint to really help keep the motivation going over the long term. So I hope that helps, Eduardo. Let me know if there's something specific within the business community that you're trying to apply this to, and we can help out. But certainly what you'll learn in fundamentals is a great place to start with having those conversations. We have another question from Christina, who asks, what if we already hold a coaching certification from another program, but now want to focus on positive psychology? Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's actually falls into a lot of folks within the fundamentals course. Yes.
Yes. And I mean, I would, again, for some reason, it's really present in my mind, what's going on with the cohort that's traveling through the mentorship right now. But several of them have done the entire program, having entered into it at the fundamentals level, already certified coaches. So what that says to me, is that they're finding value, and what I hear from them directly is, it's my objective to weave positive psychology coaching into my practice, and that these tools are very, very useful. Now, Christina, having said that first call where we're talking about active listening and empathic listening, you're going to go, yeah, I know how to do this. And like I said, and we may have said this early on, but we're using strengths language. We're talking about how to do all the things that you already know how to do in a different way, and adding in some pieces as well. And I would just recommend also, look at the syllabus. And do we have that online?
I think we do, Paula.
Yeah,
you can always type that in if you're there, Paula, if you have that syllabus handy. But I think that's on the page itself. And I also say that, one of the things that we talked about earlier was the rigor of the science behind the content. I do think that one of the great advantages of this particular positive psychology coaching course is that it's deeply steeped in the science and the evidence. And it's not to say that others aren't, but it's actually a core fundamental piece of what we teach, so that we get to be more confident in what we're doing. Like, it's not really about us as a great coach or our wonderful technique. It really is based in the rigor of the evidence that if you do this, this is the outcome. Like, if you, right? I don't know if you want to add to that, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, just jotting down so I wouldn't forget it. I'm a note taker. That another great thing about the training, right, the rigor, the science, is another piece of coaching that I've found happens with me, at least in my practice, is I do sometimes explain the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, not in a lectury way, but in what feels like a relevant and fluid and natural way. And so a piece of positive psychology coaching is to say, wow, I noticed that you're really exercising the strength of gratitude when you said that you were lucky you made all of those trains. And if I hear it 4 or 5 times in a call, I might just mention it as encouragement. Did you know gratitude is actually a character strength? And there's real research that shows that using gratitude regularly in the way that you're already doing it is a healthy practice, which actually reduces doctor's appointments. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but so taking this course will enable you to, as it's relevant in the moment, bring in actual research, not in a heavy-handed way, but in an appropriate way that can be really helpful. I have clients that reflect back to me later the practices that I have mentioned that they've adopted as a result, and they do further research. I feel like there is a little bit of a teaching piece and a very intellectual piece to positive psychology coaching.
Yeah. And Eduardo did leave another note about what his issue was. He wants to increase sales. I'm not sure, Eduardo, whether you are getting the pressure from others to increase the sales on yourself, or you're the person in the manager who needs to increase the sales with others. I'm going to make a comment on that because it's so funny. My background professionally in the corporate world was as sales manager, marketing, national accounts. So I was the person traveling around the country negotiating the $10+ million contracts. That was my job. And I actually was a sales manager, so it was my job to say, hey, here are the numbers we've got to meet, team, come on. And it's funny when you think about sales, one of the things that's folks like sales tend to do is focus on the numbers. Like, go make this happen. This is our sales quota. Come on, go out and do it. Rah, rah. And it's so funny that some of the science around how we relate to others and how we connect with others is a much quieter, softer way of being. Like, how well are we listening? How well are we hearing what the other person said? What type of questions are we asking? And those type of conversations, I can't say that if you take listen, I'm not going to tell you, Eduardo, that if you take the positive psychology coaching fundamentals, your sales will rise by 50%. I'm not going to say that. Because I have not seen any research, as a matter of fact, of positive psychology coaching in sales. But what I can tell you is the research does say that when we have those conversations, we're actually able to elevate people. When we elevate people, their motivation is increased. And Jennifer, did you have anything to say on that? I really could go on and on about that. I think it's
I love listening to you. And I was just thinking, we're in positive psychology coaching, we're cultivating people's best qualities, right? And I just think, yes, it will increase sales, because as a manager, when you're and active listening is just it's transformative. So if you're new to coaching and new to positive psychology, Eduardo, you'll find that you're having different conversations with your team immediately. And people change in the way they behave around you as a result. So I don't know. We can promise,
in the certificate in positive psychology, in the immersion, there is a part of that session where I talked once about sales in the context of listening, because we were teaching a section on listening. And I remember looking at the research and saying, a lot of times we attribute increased sales to things like charisma, to extroversion, to verbal abilities. And in fact, I wish I could cite this study that I read, but I remember teaching at that point, one of the skills that was highly underrated in the sales was this ability to listen and hear what the client needed. And it makes perfect sense. And it actually goes along with the work that Susan Cain has done in her work on quiet leadership, how we tend to undervalue our ability to really connect relationally with those we're trying to serve. And I actually love thinking about sales as an expression of service. Can you really listen and really apply the tools of what you're selling to meet a need? So I have no idea what you're selling, but I'm very curious about what you do. So we'll come back to that if need be. I think that's it for the questions. Did we miss anything that we wanted? Oh, we want to talk a little bit about community, and I think that's a great way to wrap up tonight.
Yeah. So I'll just dive in, and Megan, you can flesh this out probably because you have the really big Wholebeing Institute picture. But I just feel like the community piece is what really is another thing that sets this experience apart, because yes, it's an online learning course. We're not in person for this. And through very intentional pieces of the program, we're creating connection, and not just for the duration of the program, but the connection that even happens afterwards. And there's this closed classroom where you'll be able to introduce yourself and interact with each other. And Linda and I are checking in there as well, and we're dialoguing, responding to questions, sharing resources. So that's happening outside of the actual activity of the hour-and-a-half class. And then, like I said before, there's this friendly banter that happens before class. There's this warmth and back and forth during the class. If you put up your hand to get coached, you'll actually have that experience. So there's so many connections. And if you do the peer coaching, you're going to meet at least 2, maybe 3 other peers that you're going to partner with during the duration of the course. And those people may become friends for life. And then finally, there's social media. So you can dive into one of our social media groups and interact there. And let's say you coach for a while, and then you kind of go off and do something else, and then you want to reconnect. You can literally put a message. It's not moderated, but in the social media group years later, and say, hey, I'm getting back in, or, I just want to connect. And you'll get responses from people who will be resources for life.
And I will speak to the bigger picture of the Wholebeing community as a whole, because not only do you connect online, but then, like, we're going to, a lot of our faculty is going to be speaking down at the World Happiness Summit in Miami in March, for example. And we are yay! So I'll be there speaking. Dr. Maria Sawar will be there speaking. Some of our graduates will be on the stage. We have a number of folks who are actually from our community who are speaking on the big stage there, which I'm thrilled about. But we're also having an alumni event of anybody, not just our certificate in positive psychology, but anybody that's gone through and be connected with Wholebeing Institute will have a Happier Together hour. I think it's on Friday, March 13th. I guess that's a good lucky day, Friday the 13th. So there are opportunities to connect live. And I really would have, just like Jennifer was advocating for peer-to-peer coaching, because you get so much out of it. I always advocate for stay connected to Wholebeing Institute. We have a thriving, vibrant community. And at these live events, we get to connect in person at our Happier Together hour and things like that. So we do have a vibrant community. And I think we have another question here. Oh, hi. Nadia said, Jennifer, I see that you have a wellness certification from Duke. I was interested in wellness certification along with positive psych. Would you suggest getting a wellness coaching certification along with positive psychology?
That is a great question. And we could talk more, Nadia, one-on-one about that. There are people with health coaching backgrounds. There are people with executive coaching backgrounds. I think it's a great blend. So you can package the positive psychology coaching background with almost any background. So if that's your passion, I mean, I found it to be a wonderful blend. They're very complementary. And I even got like a little bit of the positive psychology in my Duke training, but nothing like what I experienced from Wholebeing. And I actually brought that with me to my training at Duke, and it was really fun to sort of raise my hand and say Margarita Tarragona, Kristen Knapp, Carol Dweck, and felt like my teachers were like, wow.
Wow, you are positive. You get an A+ in this class. And so listen, Nadia or Eduardo or anybody else on the call, if you have questions that you want to follow up on, help at Wholebeing Institute. We're here to answer your questions. Paula continues to get lots of emails and phone calls about the course coming up next week. I think I feel complete. I don't see any other further questions. And certainly if you have those questions, help at wholebeinginstitute.com. And did you have any last thoughts, Jennifer, did we miss anything? Anything you want to add in the last?
Just to say that it's all the rigorous science. It's kind of transformative, just a little massively. And it's fun. It's a fun, pleasurable experience to be part of it. And so if you're interested, I hope you join us.
Yeah, well, that's a good ending. Yes, we don't want to do it if it's not fun. Deep learning can be fun and challenging and stretching and challenging our skills. So, Jennifer, I want to thank you for, first of all, putting up with some technical problems and hanging with us and using those problem-solving skills. It's been such an absolute pleasure to be on with you this evening. For all of you joining live, I'm glad you're here. I hope we answered your questions. And those of you who are listening to the recordings, we continue to monitor this feed. So if you have any questions, send them through to us. We're here for you. In the meantime, I wish you well. Have a good day and a wonderful evening. Take care, all. Bye now.